So it seems like everyone and the mom and educate has hate for EVs.
Little electric, my little plug. Ooh, let me get my little plug and plug it into my Tesla. Is this the man you are? More gasoline, more dead dinosaurs to put inside of my 6.5 liter V12. Oh, let me get my electricity.
And more than that, it seems like they fear the arrival of EVs more than anything. You know, I go on Instagram, I see a whole lot of, us BMW, Mercedes, Audis, we need to stop fighting each other, and we need to team up, and we need to be against EVs. There's a very us versus them mentality, and I think we should talk about that, because I see a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding going on. A lot of people are saying, like, we need to protest against the EPA, we need to fight the EPA. For those people, I don't think you understand how big this EV movement is. I don't think you understand the scale. Like, the EPA is a USA thing. As far as the ban of the sale of new internal combustion engine cars, that's a global. That's worldwide. California is banning the sale of new cars by 2035, but pretty much all the other countries, especially in Europe, like, they're banning it by 2030. So, with that being said, even if we do fight the EPA, and even if the EPA does go back on their decision, it's not like, maybe the American car manufacturers are going to continue making gasoline cars, but globally, it's not going to be worth it just to sell the car in only one market, only in the United States of America, just to sell gasoline cars in that one market. It wouldn't make sense for them. And the reason why is we're banning it in the first place is, it's pretty clear cut. Internal combustion engine cars, they're not very good for the environment. And as far as EVs goes, sure, you can make an argument that they're not good for the environment currently, but that's just currently. There could be further developments. EVs are, they haven't just been invented. They were invented a long time ago, but they're still in their infancy. There's still a lot that they're capable of that we don't even know about. We haven't reached the limits of range. We haven't reached the limits of charging capabilities, and we haven't reached the limits of battery technology either. And there could possibly be a better way to produce batteries than the one that is currently. And even if there isn't, air quality in majorly populated cities is going to improve by a lot if most people drive EVs. And after, I believe, like 50,000 miles or so, whatever was quoted, EVs are going to begin to justify the environmental prowesses. And plus, come on, let's be honest. A lot of these people that, criticize EVs a lot of these enthusiasts that criticize EVs for not being good for the environment, how many of them drive catless Hellcats? You know what I'm saying? How many of them drive, no cat cars that are horrible for the environment, and yet they want to complain about EVs because they're not good for the environment? Come on, let's be real here. You can make an argument that EVs are not as fun to drive as internal combustion engine cars, but when you think about, most internal combustion engine cars are cars that are being driven by non-car enthusiasts who don't really care about, the stuff that us enthusiasts care about, like engine noise and the sort of visceralness that comes with it. And if you don't care about that, and you have a good charging situation, like you're able to charge your battery sufficiently, honestly, EVs are so much better. Like from day to day usage, you don't have to wait for an EV to warm up. You can just get in and go. Matter of fact, you can have it parked inside your garage and remote start it, so to speak, and have the AC or the heat going. And you can have it parked in your garage and you're not going to risk dying, essentially. A closed garage, I should say. You don't have to wait for it to warm up. You can just get in and just mat it if you really want to. You can do a burnout like from the get if you really wanted to. The power delivery is so much smoother. The torque, like night and day, like low end torque is night and day. The response is so much quicker. There's a lot less routine maintenance. You're not changing oil. You're not changing transmission fluid. You're not changing spark plug, ignition coils. There's a whole lot less moving parts that you have to deal with. And, even as an enthusiast, when it comes to a daily driver, that'll be so much better. It'll be so much better to just get in the car that you don't even have to worry about. That takes so much less maintenance. Now, granted, you may run into some other issues, like you may run into battery issues or possibly electric motors. But first of all, you have to realize that EVs are not the same as gasoline cars. They're going to have their own set of quirks. They're going to have their own ways of maintaining them and their own ways of making them last longer. For example, you usually want to keep it below 80% state of charge and above 20%. You don't want to be in those extremes. You're going to have to change some habits, but all in all, I mean, there have been EVs out there that have proven themselves, that have gone over 400,000 miles and still retain much of the battery. So, and again, this is just the infancy of EVs for the masses, EVs for the mainstream. Like, you can only imagine how much better EVs are going to get by the time we get to 2030, which I know isn't a long time, especially considering the infrastructure, but I mean, come on, like over the last 10 years, we've come a long way. And if we focus more of our energy into that, you could be very surprised on how much more viable EVs are. Most of these people have never driven an EV for real, because to be honest, they can be fun. Maybe in a different sense, EVs are generally heavier, except that's not really the case anymore, because cars in general have just gotten insanely heavy. Like a Tesla Model 3 isn't realistically no heavier than a comparable BMW 3 Series or a Mercedes C-Class. Maybe a couple 100 pounds heavier, but it's not even a big difference anymore. Obviously, there's no sound. There's no gear shifting in most cases, at least. I mean, if you can't get over that, fine. But there's nothing I can tell you, but it is possible. It is possible to get over the lack of noise and to get over the lack of shifting and still have a good time driving an EV. But, a lot of you just don't want to give it a chance, which is a theme that I see in the car community. When something's new, you're so quick to reject it. You're so quick to immediately denounce it. Say, this is vaporware. This is not better than what we have currently. Like, we've seen this several times before with cars that have just completely, changed the automotive sphere. We've seen this before when the Prius came out. People immediately, not even immediately, like they started hating on it when it became more prevalent. Same thing when the Bugatti Veyron came out. Same thing when the Nissan GTR came out. Same thing with the Tesla Model S came out. What do those cars all have in common? They're all disruptors. They're all cars that have taken a big leap forward for the automotive industry, and has popularized a lot of technologies that have yet to be seen before. Like, there was times where, I mean, the Prius seems like an obvious one because it's not really the traditional enthusiast car. You know, it's a hybrid family hatchback, almost a sedan. It's a CVT and whatnot. You know, it's an economy car. But but even then, you don't see people just hating on Hyundai Accents, or you don't see people hating on Honda Civics or Corollas. But the fact that the Prius popularized a technology that somewhat, just because it somewhat doesn't fit into the traditional enthusiast recipe, that's why everyone jumped on it. And only now are people starting to relax on it, especially now that the new Prius dropped and it's actually very cool looking and it's fairly quick too. But even the same thing when the Bugatti Veyron came out, it took a huge leap forward, which is the previous benchmark. And it almost created the hypercar class. And there was nothing out there there was no stock car out there that was as quick as it, that could drive as fast as it, and that offered so much comfort. But then people took it as, oh, this car is OP, or, oh, this, just because now that my favorite supercar is out of the spotlight, what, now this thing is in the spotlight? Oh my God, I hate it. It's so dumb. Like, who needs all that power anyway? Same thing when the GTR came out. It popularized dual clutch transmissions, and high performance cars. It popularized variable all-wheel drive, turbocharged, relatively small displacement engines. And people hated it. Why? Because it's not a V8. It's not a manual. It's not rear-wheel drive. Or who needs all that performance? It's a robot car. It has way too much technology to be a real enthusiast car. Hold on, we need to talk about that real quick. We need to stop this whole you're a real car guy thing, because no matter what you think is the proper criteria for being a real car guy, the goalpost is always going to move. Always. You think you're a real car guy because you drive a gasoline car and not a Tesla? Well, guess what? The next guy thinks that you're not a real car guy because you drive an automatic and I drive a manual. Oh, well, you think you're a real car guy just because you drive a manual with your computer-controlled car with ECUs with a throttle by wire? Well, guess what? I drive a classic car. It has no type of electronics that's possible. The goalpost is always going to move, so how about we just stop this whole what makes you a real car guy thing and just be like, you know what? If you have an affinity for cars and you take the time to either work on them, research them, appreciate them, drive them in this spirited manner. It doesn't even have to be spirited. Like, as long as you have an appreciation for cars, you know, should that not be enough? Here's the thing about electric cars. Whether you like it or not, internal combustion engine cars are going to go away. They're going to be stopped being sold as new. Now, granted, until further notice at least, you're still going to be able to drive your current gasoline powered car, and you're still going to be able to buy used ones. Now, it might be more of a liability. Maybe gas prices will increase. Maybe oil prices will increase. You know, that remains to be seen. But we can't keep doing this forever. There has to be a change at some point, and that change is just now. And it just so happens that when it comes to alternative fuel cars, You got, you got your hydrogen, you have ethanol. EVs, they just won. What can we say? They just won because out of all the alternative fuel cars, they're the next most viable. And they also have the most potential. If Porsche or Toyota or whoever makes an alternative fuel car that's good for your environment, great. That's good. I'm not complaining one bit. More power to them. But either way, something's got to change. EVs are coming. In the near future, a lot of people are going to be switching to them. It's for the best. You have to ask yourself, are you criticizing EVs because you don't think they're going to work, or because you don't want them to work? And if you don't want them to work, dude, at this point, at least from where we're at now, nobody is forcing you to drive an EV. So what's the issue? What's the issue if other people drive EVs? What's the issue if other people like EVs? No one's forcing you to drive it. Stick to your gasoline car. Make your own E85. Do whatever it is that you got to do. But I don't know. I just think this EV hate is crazy. And the reasons behind it are just honestly very juvenile. Us car enthusiasts, we need to do better. We need to just stop this childishness. Maybe not to get too psychological, but maybe the reason behind this childishness is because people have this idealistic view as to what a car should be and how it should make them feel. And they go to that, they subscribe to that to get away from, maybe the responsibilities or maybe the things that's hurting them. Cars are an escape for a lot of people. And maybe the thought of having the traditional enthusiast car, the thought of that going away, is unbearable for a lot of people. But I don't know, I think a lot of us are just kind of acting irrational, to be honest. You just need to really take the time to think about, okay, how is this going to affect me personally? And there are organizations out there like Haggerty that are there for, in case our freedoms are being taken away, which is something that a lot of people that hate EVs allude to, that it's because of our freedoms being taken away, when really, no, it's not. That's not happened. That's not happened yet, at least. But even if the government starts to do that, we have organizations like Haggerty that are going to keep us continuing to drive. And are going to let us drive the cars that we want. And if that goes over, and, all the non-car people that don't mind driving EVs, or even the car people that don't mind driving EVs, if the majority of us switch to EVs and the enthusiast gets to keep the cars that we want, people are still able to keep their gas cars, everybody wins. You can argue about environment all you want, but about the impact that EVs and the batteries have to the environment all you want, but the fact is the air quality, and especially in densely populated areas, is going to improve. And EV technology is going to be better. It's going to be more viable. So, to all the enthusiasts out there, y'all need to chill. Especially on Tesla, bro. Y'all hate for Tesla is so lame, bro. All the videos I be seeing on my feed, my Instagram feed, there's people trashing EVs, but it seems like Tesla is the most targeted just because it's probably the most popular, and the Model S really popularized EVs for the mainstream. Yeah, y'all need to chill on Tesla, bro, because the hate for them is crazy. Now, it could be fueled by like by Elon Musk, or maybe stereotypes on Tesla owners and stereotypes on Tesla cars in general, most of which are not true, to be honest. But yeah, y'all need to just chill on EVs, and especially Teslas, and don't speak the things that you fear into existence. And a lot of things that you guys fear as enthusiasts, honestly, it's just your fear talking. Not to mention, I mean, come on. With the way emissions are going, do y'all really want gasoline cars to continue being made? Because, bro, honestly, a lot of these gasoline cars that are continuing to be made, most of them are lame. You're not going to get that big displacement, naturally aspirated, charismatic engine anymore. You can get it in very few places. Most of the time, it's some downsized, turbocharged engine that sounds like nothing. And on top of that, manuals are, I mean, they're starting to make a comeback. The only reason why they're starting to make a comeback is because manufacturers recognize that, you know, manuals and like traditional enthusiast cars are going away. Or they were going away, but now that electric cars are starting to come in a decade or so, you know, they're trying to just throw everything and have a party, so to speak, because they know they can capitalize off of that. That's why Nissan made a new Z. That's why Toyota gave us a GR Corolla and the GR86 and the Supra. That's why Hyundai gave us the Elantra N, the Veloster N, even the Kona N. That's why we're getting all these like traditional enthusiast cars, because they know this is the last chance that they have. But otherwise, dude, we were on a very automatic transmission, very downsized turbocharged, no personality having, everything's a 2-liter 4-cylinder timing, and everything has numb steering timing. That's like, at that point, you might as well just switch to an electric car. Like, even the new C63, like, the new AMG C63, Mercedes sold out, bro. The whole point of getting an AMG was for the motor. They understand that AMGs are not going to particularly be the quickest compared to the competitors or the best handling. But it was a way to get a Mercedes with a charismatic motor, as well as a nice interior, you know, top of the line. But now the mission has changed. Now it's a 4-cylinder hybrid that makes 680 horsepower combined, and they're going for a more, you know, speed, acceleration, handling type of car. So the mission has changed, and it's like this weird in between. Like, as far as speed goes, it's no quicker than what an electric car would have been had it have, you know, the same power and torque output. And electric cars are perfectly capable of handling well too. Just look at Porsche Taycan. Just look at Model 3 performance. But then, as far as being a gasoline car, the new 63, it's just another 2-liter 4-cylinder, albeit one that, well, by itself makes 470 horsepower. So, and with the electric motors makes 680 horsepower. But I mean, it sounds no different than a C300. It sounds no different than BMW 330i, which in itself sounds no different than a Civic Si that has a 1.5 liter turbo 4, but I mean, same thing, a low displacement turbo 4. So we're going on this downward spiral of gasoline powered cars that are a lot less charismatic to the traditional enthusiasts. Well, it's like, at that point, you might as well just get an EV anyway. That's going to be a lot lower maintenance, well, depending on your charging situation, a lot easier to live with. No, just think about it. But hey, this is all just me, though. You know, take this however you will. hopefully this provides you with some sort of wisdom, and this changes your views at least somewhat. Honest, I know where I stand, and no, I ain't tripping about this whole EV thing. Matter of fact, my next car is probably gonna be an EV. And mind you, I love gasoline cars as much as the next person. You know, I get it. I love this sound. I love the shifting. I love all that. But guess what? EVs are great too. Just try one. Go ahead and drive an EV. Keep an open mind. Don't go into it saying, I'm going to hate this. My purpose is to hate this. Go into it with an open mind and see if you come with the same energy that you've had before. Anyway, so I know a lot of you, if you made it this far, are either agreeing heavy or riled up. Either way, go ahead and leave a reading, leave a comment. Please subscribe. But take care.